My name is Mia Reynolds, and I'm 34 years old. I teach second grade at a small elementary school here in Asheville, North Carolina. For 8 years, I thought I had the perfect marriage. I thought my husband loved me. I thought he wanted to protect me, to take care of me, to grow old with me. Every single morning for 6 months, he looked me in the eyes and handed me pills that were destroying me from the inside out. And I smiled. I thanked him. I swallowed them down with my coffee and kissed him goodbye before heading to work. I trusted him with my life. That trust almost killed me. Before we get into this, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Seriously, I love hearing from you all. Now, let me tell you exactly how the person I loved most in this world tried to erase me without anyone ever knowing. 6 months before everything fell apart, my life looked perfect from the outside. Jason and I had been married for 8 years. We met at a charity gala in Nashville when I was 26 and he was 28. He was charming, successful, ambitious. He worked as a medical device sales rep, always traveling to hospitals and clinics across the Carolinas and Georgia, building relationships, closing deals. He was good at his job, really good. He knew how to talk to people, how to make them trust him, how to convince them that what he was offering was exactly what they needed. I should have paid more attention to that skill set. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but whose is? We had our disagreements like any couple. He worked long hours. I brought home stacks of papers to grade every night. We were busy, but we made time for each other, date nights every Friday, Sunday morning coffee on the porch, little routines that made us feel like a team. I loved him. God, I really loved him, and I thought he loved me, too. It started in March 15th to be exact. I remember because it was the day after my birthday. Jason had taken me to this beautiful restaurant overlooking the French Broad River. We'd had wine, shared dessert, laughed about my students' latest antics. It felt romantic. Special. The next morning, I woke up to Jason standing by the bed with a glass of water and a small white bottle. "Morning, beautiful," he said, smiling that smile that used to make my heart skip. "I got you something." I rubbed my eyes, confused. "Another birthday present?" "Sort of." He sat on the edge of the bed and opened the bottle. "These are specialized vitamins. I've been learning about them through work. Formulated specifically for women in their 30s, energy, metabolism, hormonal balance, all of that. I thought they might help you feel better." I frowned. "I feel fine." "I know, baby. But you've been tired lately. You mentioned it a few times, remember last week when you fell asleep during our movie night? And those headaches?" He shook out 2 pills into his palm and held them out. "Just try them for me. I want you to feel your best." Looking back now, I can see all the red flags. The way he'd already opened the bottle. The way he didn't let me read the label. The way he stood there, watching, to make sure I actually swallowed them. But in that moment, I just saw my husband being thoughtful. Caring. Wanting to take care of me. So I took them. I swallowed those 2 little pills with the water he brought, and I smiled. "Thank you, honey. That's really sweet." His smile widened. "Anything for you. I'll remind you every morning, okay? They only work if you're consistent." And he did. Every single morning for the next 6 months, Jason made sure I took those pills. It became part of our routine, coffee brewing, breakfast on the table, Jason handing me my vitamins with a glass of orange juice. Sometimes he'd kiss my forehead after I swallowed them. Sometimes he'd watch me for just a beat too long, like he was making sure they went down. But I didn't question it. Why would I? He was my husband. He worked in the medical field, or close enough. He knew about medications, supplements, the body. I trusted him completely. The first few weeks, I didn't notice much change. Maybe I felt a little more tired, but I'd been tired before. Teaching second graders is exhausting on a good day. 23 7-year-olds who need your attention, your patience, your energy from 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m., then grading, lesson planning, parent emails. I thought the fatigue was just part of the job. But then it got worse. By the end of April, I was dragging myself through every day. I'd wake up after 8 hours of sleep and still feel like I'd barely rested. My alarm would go off, and I'd have to force myself out of bed, my body feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I started drinking more coffee. 3 cups became 4, then 5. It didn't help. By lunchtime, I'd be fighting to keep my eyes open. I started taking my lunch breaks in my car, just so I could close my eyes for 20 minutes without my students seeing. Jason noticed. Of course he did, how could he not? I was falling asleep on the couch by 8 o'clock every night. Some evenings, I'd sit down to grade papers and wake up 2 hours later with my face on the kitchen table and drool on a second grader's math worksheet. "Baby, you're exhausted," Jason would say, his voice full of concern. "Maybe you should see a doctor." "I'm fine," I'd insist. "It's just been a long semester. Summer break is coming." "You're still taking your vitamins, right?" he'd ask. Every time. Always checking. "Yes, Jason. Every morning, just like you told me." "Good. Keep it up. Your body is probably just adjusting. These things take time to work." So, I kept taking them, because he kept giving them to me, and I kept trusting him. By May, it wasn't just the fatigue anymore. I started having trouble concentrating. I'd be in the middle of teaching a lesson and completely lose my train of thought. I'd stand there in front of my class, marker in hand, staring at the whiteboard like I'd forgotten how to write. The kids would giggle, and I'd laugh it off, make a joke about teachers needing summer break, too. But inside, I was scared. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just being tired. I started forgetting things. Little things at first, where I'd put my keys, whether I'd locked the front door, what I'd eaten for breakfast. Then bigger things, parent-teacher conferences I'd scheduled, staff meetings. One day, I completely forgot it was my turn to monitor the cafeteria during lunch, and Principal Whitaker had to come find me in my classroom. I apologized, embarrassed, confused. I'd never been forgetful before. I'd always been organized, on top of things. Now, I felt like my brain was wrapped in fog. My colleagues started noticing, too. Lauren, who taught 3rd grade across the hall from me, pulled me aside one afternoon in late May. "Mia, are you okay?" she asked, her face creased with worry. "You seem off lately." "I'm fine," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just tired." "It's more than tired," she pressed. "You seem distant, distracted. Yesterday, you walked right past me in the parking lot and didn't even respond when I said hello." I didn't remember that. I didn't remember seeing her at all. "I'm sorry. I've just got a lot on my mind." She studied my face for a long moment. "Maybe you should take some time off, or see a doctor. You don't look well." I promised her I would. I didn't. Instead, I went home and told Jason what Lauren had said. I thought he'd be concerned. I thought he'd insist I make an appointment with my doctor, and he did. Sort of. "She's right," he said, pulling me into a hug. "You do seem run down. Let's get you in to see Dr. Martinez next week, but keep taking your vitamins, okay? Don't stop those. You need the nutrients, especially if you're feeling this exhausted." So, I made an appointment with my primary care physician at Mission Health in Asheville. It took 2 weeks to get in, 2 more weeks of swallowing those pills every morning, 2 more weeks of feeling like I was slowly disappearing. The emotional changes started in early June. I've never been a particularly moody person. I'm generally pretty even-keeled, patient, optimistic. You have to be to teach 2nd grade. But suddenly, I was all over the place. I'd start crying over nothing. A sad commercial would have me sobbing. I snapped at my students for the first time in my entire teaching career, yelling at a little boy for sharpening his pencil too loudly. I apologized immediately, horrified at myself, but the damage was done. The look on his face, the way he flinched, it broke my heart. At home, I was worse. I'd get angry at Jason over the smallest things. He'd leave a dish in the sink, and I'd explode, screaming at him about respect and consideration. Then, 5 minutes later, I'd be crying and apologizing, not understanding why I'd reacted that way. He was so patient with me. So understanding. He'd hold me while I cried and tell me it was okay, that everyone had rough patches, that we'd get through this together. Just keep taking your vitamins, he'd remind me. We'll see what Dr. Martinez says. My appointment finally came on June 18th. I sat in that sterile examination room and told Dr. Martinez everything: the fatigue, the memory problems, the mood swings, the difficulty concentrating. She listened carefully, asked questions, took my blood pressure, looked in my eyes and ears. Your vitals look normal, she said, typing notes into her computer. But let's run some blood work just to be safe. We'll check your thyroid, your vitamin levels, your hormones. In the meantime, I want you to focus on sleep hygiene. No screens an hour before bed. Consistent sleep schedule. Maybe try some meditation or gentle yoga. I nodded, feeling frustrated. I was already sleeping 9 to 10 hours a night. I couldn't sleep more than I already was. Are you taking any medications? Any supplements? Just vitamins, I told her. My husband got them for me. He works in medical device sales. What kind of vitamins? I'm not sure exactly. He handles it. He gives them to me every morning. She gave me a look I didn't understand. Then I'd like to know what's in them. Can you bring the bottle to your follow-up appointment? Sure, I agreed. The blood work came back normal. Everything was fine, according to the tests. Dr. Martinez suggested it might be stress. Recommended I consider seeing a therapist, maybe try some anxiety medication. I left that appointment feeling defeated. Nothing was wrong with me, supposedly. But I felt worse than I'd ever felt in my life. Jason picked me up from the appointment. I'd been too tired to drive myself. What did she say? He asked as I climbed into the passenger seat. Nothing's wrong. Blood work is fine. She thinks it's stress. I leaned my head against the window, exhausted, even though I'd done nothing all day but sit in a doctor's office. See? I told you you're just working too hard. Summer break starts next week. You'll feel better once you get some rest. He reached over and squeezed my hand. Did you tell her about your vitamins? Yeah. She asked what kind they were. His hand tightened, almost imperceptibly, on mine. What did you tell her? That I didn't know. That you handle them. I turned to look at him. She wanted me to bring the bottle to my follow-up. I'll make sure you have it, he said smoothly. But there was something in his voice, something I couldn't quite identify. Looking back now, it was fear. He was afraid I was going to find out. Summer break started, and I thought things would get better. I thought rest would help, that sleeping in and not having the stress of work would bring me back to myself. But it got worse. So much worse. Without the structure of my job, I started sleeping 12, 14 hours a day. I'd wake up at noon feeling drugged, stumble to the kitchen where Jason would have coffee and breakfast waiting, along with my pills. I'd take them without thinking, grateful that he was taking care of me while I felt so awful. Then I'd spend the rest of the day on the couch, barely able to keep my eyes open, struggling to follow the plot of whatever show was playing on TV. Jason started working from home more, saying he wanted to keep an eye on me. At the time, I thought it was sweet. Caring. Now I know he was monitoring me, making sure his plan was working, making sure I took those pills every single day. Friends stopped calling, not because they didn't care, but because I stopped responding. I'd see their texts and think about replying, but it felt like too much effort. Forming words, typing them out, engaging in conversation, it all seemed impossibly exhausting. My phone would buzz, and I'd just stare at it, unable to make myself care. My father called in early July. I didn't answer. He called again the next day, and the next. Finally, Jason picked up my phone and talked to him. "She's fine, Bob," I heard him say from the kitchen. "Just tired. You know how hard she works during the school year. She's using summer to recover. I'm taking good care of her." A pause. "Sure, of course you can visit. Let me check with Mia and I'll call you back." He came into the living room where I was lying on the couch, half asleep. "Your dad wants to come visit." I told him, "Maybe in a few weeks, once you're feeling better." "Okay," I mumbled, my eyes already closing again. "You don't want him to see you like this, right? He'll just worry." My father, Robert Reynolds, is 63 years old. He retired from his job as a hospital pharmacist in Chattanooga 3 years ago. He's always been protective of me, especially after my mom died when I was 19. He's all the family I have. We usually talk at least once a week, see each other once a month. But as June turned into July, and July dragged on, I barely spoke to him. Jason would answer my phone, give him updates, tell him I was sleeping or in the bath or just not feeling up to talking. I barely remember July. The whole month is a blur. I know Jason's mother came to visit at some point. I vaguely remember sitting at the dinner table while she and Jason talked, me nodding along without processing a word they said. I remember her looking at me with concern, asking if I was feeling all right. Jason answered for me, "She's just tired. Just needs rest." August came. I should have been preparing for the new school year, planning lessons, organizing my classroom. Instead, I could barely get off the couch. My principal called to check in, ask if I needed anything before school started back. Jason took the call. "She's actually been really sick," I heard him say. "We're not sure if she's going to be ready to come back in a few weeks. Can she call you back when she's feeling up to it?" I should have been alarmed. I should have insisted on talking to her myself. But I just felt relieved that Jason was handling it, that I didn't have to deal with it. Looking back now, I can see what he was doing. Isolating me. Making sure no one got too close. No one asked too many questions. He was the filter between me and the rest of the world, controlling the narrative, making sure everyone thought I was just tired, just stressed, just needed rest. And all the while, every single morning, he was giving me more poison. By mid-August, I wasn't even leaving the house anymore. I'd go days without showering. I'd wear the same pajamas for a week. I stopped caring about what I looked like, how I felt, what day it was. Time meant nothing. Everything was just this heavy, foggy exhaustion that never lifted. My dad called Jason directly on August 20th. "I haven't spoken to my daughter in over a month," I heard him say through the phone, his voice tight with worry and anger. "I'm driving up there this weekend, whether you like it or not." Jason tried to put him off. "Bob, she's really not feeling well. Maybe give it another week or two. I'll be there Saturday morning. Have coffee ready." He hung up. Jason stood in the kitchen, my phone in his hand, his jaw clenched. I watched him from the couch, my brain too foggy to understand why he looked so angry. "Your dad's coming Saturday," he said finally. "Okay," I whispered. "You need to pull yourself together. I don't want him thinking I'm not taking care of you." "Okay." That night, Jason made sure I took a shower. He helped me wash my hair because I didn't have the energy to lift my arms above my head. He helped me into clean pajamas. He was gentle, careful, attentive, the perfect husband. Saturday morning came, August 22nd. The day that changed everything. The day that saved my life. I woke up at 9, which was early for me by that point. Jason was already in the kitchen. I could smell coffee brewing. I shuffled in, my body feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds, my head full of cotton. "Morning, baby," Jason said, his voice tight. Your dad will be here soon. Here, he handed me my glass of water and my pills. Take these quick, then let's get you dressed in something other than pajamas. I took the pills. Swallowed them down. It was so automatic by then, so routine. I didn't even look at them. 30 minutes later, I heard my father's truck pull into the driveway. Jason tensed. I saw it in his shoulders, the way his hands gripped his coffee mug just a little too tight. But he smiled, put on his charming son-in-law face, and went to open the door. Bob. Good to see you, Jason said, voice warm and welcoming. Come on in. Coffee's fresh. My father walked in, and his eyes went straight to me. I was sitting at the kitchen table in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. I probably weighed 15 pounds less than the last time he'd seen me. I saw the shock on his face. The way his expression crumbled for just a second before he controlled it. Hey, Daddy, I said, trying to smile. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into a hug. Baby girl. God, I've missed you. I hugged him back, feeling tears prick at my eyes. I'd missed him, too, even though I'd barely had the energy to realize it. Let me get you some coffee, Bob, Jason said, already reaching for a mug. I got it. My father's voice was cool. He let go of me, went to the coffee maker himself, and poured his own cup. The tension in the room was thick. I could feel it, even through the fog. We sat at the table, the 3 of us. Jason tried to make conversation, asked about Dad's drive up from Chattanooga, talked about the weather, the Panthers' upcoming season. My father gave short answers. His eyes kept moving back to me. So, what's been going on, Mia? He asked me directly. Jason says you haven't been feeling well. Just tired, I said automatically. It's what I'd been saying for months. What Jason had been saying for months. Tired, my father repeated flatly. For 2 months? The school year really took it out of her, Jason jumped in. She's been recovering. Getting rest. My father's eyes narrowed. She looks worse than tired, Jason. She looks sick. We've been to the doctor. Blood work came back fine. It's just stress and exhaustion. They were talking about me like I wasn't there. I should have been annoyed, but I was too tired to care. I just wanted to go back to bed. I'm fine, Daddy, I said softly. Really? He didn't look convinced. He opened his mouth to say something else, when his eyes landed on the counter. The pill bottle. The small white bottle Jason had left sitting there after giving me my morning dose. My father stood up. Walked over. Picked it up. Everything stopped. Jason went completely still. I watched his face shift from relaxed to alert in an instant, but he tried to hide it, forcing his expression to stay neutral. My father turned the bottle in his hands, reading the label. Then his face changed. The color drained out of it. His hands started to shake. Mia, he said, voice strangely tight. Who prescribed these to you? I frowned, confused. Nobody. They're just vitamins. Jason got them for me. My father's eyes snapped to Jason. These aren't vitamins. Jason stood up. Bob, let me explain. These are high-dose sedatives. My father's voice was getting louder, shaking. Mixed with benzodiazepines. This is a dangerous combination. This could. He looked at me, face full of horror. Baby, how long have you been taking these? 6 months, I said, my brain struggling to process what he was saying. Since March. They're vitamins, for energy. And these aren't vitamins, he shouted now. Who's taking these? Mia, are you taking these? Yes. Jason gives them to me every morning. My father spun on Jason. What the hell is wrong with you? These aren't supplements, they're prescription medications. What are you doing? Jason held up his hands. Bob, you're overreacting. I got the bottle mixed up. Mixed up? My father cut him off. This dosage, for 6 months, would cause severe dependency, cognitive impairment, memory loss. Jesus Christ. He looked at me again, and I saw tears in his eyes. Call 911. Right now. Dad, I'm fine. You're not fine. You're being poisoned. He pulled out his phone. If you won't call, I will. Jason moved fast. He lunged for my father, trying to grab the phone. Bob, stop it. You're scaring her. These are just. Get away from me. My father shoved him back. Don't you touch me. Don't you dare. I sat at the table, my brain struggling to catch up. Poisoned. Sedatives. 6 months. Nothing made sense. My father was already on the phone. Yes, I need an ambulance at 1428 Hemlock Ridge Road in Asheville. My daughter has been taking high-dose sedatives and benzodiazepines for 6 months, without her knowledge. She needs immediate medical attention. A pause. Yes, she's conscious, extremely lethargic, confused. I'm a retired hospital pharmacist. I know what I'm looking at. Please hurry. Jason just stood there. The mask had fallen away. I looked at him and saw something I'd never seen before, something cold, calculating. Caught. Jason, I whispered. What did you give me? He didn't answer. Just stared at my father, jaw clenched, fists tight at his sides. The ambulance arrived within 10 minutes. Paramedics rushed in, and my father thrust the pill bottle into their hands. She's been taking these twice daily for 6 months, he said, voice shaking. She didn't know what they were. Her husband told her they were vitamins. One paramedic glanced at the label, and his eyes widened. Ma'am, we need to get you to the hospital right now. Everything after that is fragmentary. I remember being lifted onto the stretcher. My father climbing in beside me, still clutching that white bottle like a lifeline. I remember looking back at the house, Jason standing in the doorway, watching us leave, face empty, unreadable. I remember the ER, blinding lights, voices overlapping, someone sliding in 4 into my arm. Questions I could barely answer. How long have you been taking these? 6 months. Did you know what they were? No. My husband said they were vitamins. Who prescribed them? No one. My husband gave them to me. I remember the doctor, a woman with kind eyes, leaning over me, her expression grave. Mia, your toxicology screen shows extremely high levels of multiple controlled substances. You're in severe chemical dependency. We need to monitor you very carefully. Do you understand? I nodded. But I didn't, not really. My brain was still wrapped in fog, still swimming in whatever Jason had been dosing me with. My father never left my side. I remember him holding my hand, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, baby. I should have come sooner. I should have known something was wrong. It's not your fault, I whispered, though I still didn't grasp the full horror. The police came, 2 officers from the Asheville PD. They asked questions, took my statement, accepted the pill bottle from my dad. Has Jason ever hurt you physically? No. Did you know why he'd give you these medications? No. I didn't know. I didn't understand any of this. We'll need to search your house, ma'am, one officer said. We'll need your permission. Okay, I said. Whatever you need. They left. My father stayed. The hospital kept me for 3 days, starting me on a medically supervised withdrawal. The doctor explained, I couldn't stop cold turkey. After 6 months of daily use, my body was dependent. Stopping suddenly could cause seizures, severe anxiety, even death. They had to wean me off, slowly, carefully. On the 2nd day, the police returned. They told me what they'd found. Jason's browser history, how to poison someone slowly. Drugs that cause memory loss. Undetectable sedatives. How to mimic natural causes. They found a life insurance policy he'd taken out on me 8 months earlier. $2 million. He'd forged my signature. I'd never even known it existed. And then, the texts. To Amber Cole, his colleague at the medical device company. Messages that made me sick. She's getting worse. Won't be much longer now. Are you sure this will work? Positive. By the time anyone figures it out, it'll look like accidental overdose, mixing her own meds. No one will suspect anything. I can't wait until we can be together without hiding. Soon, baby. Just a few more weeks. More messages. Planning their future. The trips. The house. The life they'd build, paid for with my death. The officers explained Jason's plan, gradually increase my dose until my body shut down. Make it look like I'd become addicted to anxiety meds and accidentally overdosed. With his medical-adjacent background, he knew exactly how to make it believable. I listened from my hospital bed, and felt nothing. I was too shocked, too drugged, too broken to process it. My husband of 8 years had spent the last 6 months slowly killing me, and I'd thanked him for it every single morning. They arrested Jason on the 3rd day. Attempted murder. Insurance fraud. Multiple counts of distributing controlled substances without a prescription. The officers told me he tried to flee, caught at Nashville International Airport with a one-way ticket to Mexico. Amber was arrested, too. She'd been helping him get the medications, using her access at the medical device company to obtain pills that weren't tracked to any patient. She'd known exactly what he was planning. The text messages proved it. I stayed in the hospital for a week total. My father never left. He slept in the chair next to my bed. Held my hand when the withdrawal symptoms got bad. Talked to doctors. Dealt with police. Handled everything I couldn't. I almost lost you, he said one night, his voice breaking. If I hadn't come when I did, if I hadn't seen that bottle. God, Mia, I almost lost you. But you didn't, I whispered. You saved me, Daddy. The withdrawal was hell. Anxiety that made my heart race and my hands shake. Insomnia, after months of being unable to stay awake. Nausea. Headaches. Muscle pain. The doctors said it would take months to fully clear the drugs from my system. Months more to reverse the cognitive damage. They couldn't promise I'd ever fully recover. 6 months of high-dose sedatives and benzodiazepines had done serious harm to my brain. But I was alive. That's what mattered. I was alive, and Jason was in jail. And every day, I was getting a little clearer. A little more like myself. They released me with a strict medication schedule, therapy appointments, and follow-up visits with neurologists and psychiatrists. My father took me to his house in Chattanooga. There was no way I was going back to that house in Asheville, the house where my husband had poisoned me every single morning for half a year. The first few weeks were the hardest. My body didn't know how to function without the drugs it had grown dependent on. I'd have panic attacks out of nowhere, heart pounding, gasping for air. I couldn't sleep more than an hour or 2 at a time. When I did sleep, I had nightmares. Jason's face. The white pill bottle. Waking up paralyzed, unable to scream, while he stood over me, smiling. My father was patient. So patient. He'd wake up with me during panic attacks, talk me through them, remind me I was safe. He'd sit with me during insomnia, watching old movies at 3 a.m. He'd make me eat when I had no appetite, make me shower when I didn't have the energy, make me keep going when all I wanted was to give up. The legal process began. Jason's lawyer tried to cut a deal, claimed it was all a misunderstanding, that Jason had only been trying to help with my anxiety, that he'd accidentally given the wrong meds. But the evidence was overwhelming. Computer search history, undetectable sedatives, how to mimic natural causes, benzodiazepine half-life. Texts to Amber. The forged $2 million life insurance policy. The systematic isolation. There was no way to explain it away. Amber took a plea deal. She testified against Jason in exchange for a reduced sentence. She told the court everything. How Jason had approached her 6 months before he started giving me the pills. How he said his marriage was over, but he couldn't afford a divorce. How he promised her a future together if she helped him. How she used her access to pull untraceable medications. How she falsified inventory logs. She cried on the stand. Said she was sorry, that she never thought he'd actually go through with it, that she'd been in love, stupid, and wrong. The prosecutor destroyed her. He showed the jury texts where she joked about their dream house in Costa Rica, asked Jason is she gone yet, and complained it was taking too long. I sat in that courtroom and listened to every word. Every detail of how the man I'd loved had meticulously planned my murder. Every message arranging my death. Every search query about how to poison me and get away with it. And I felt rage, white-hot, cleansing rage, burning away the fog, the confusion, the shame. Jason took the stand in his own defense. Big mistake. His lawyer probably warned him not to, but Jason's arrogance wouldn't let him stay silent. He thought he could charm the jury like he'd charmed me. Like he'd charmed everyone his whole life. He claimed he loved me, that he only wanted me to relax, that I'd been so stressed, and the meds were just to help. Said he didn't know the combo was dangerous, called it a terrible mistake, not attempted murder. The prosecutor asked about the life insurance policy. Jason claimed he'd told me about it, that I must have forgotten because of the meds. But the signature analysis was clear, forged. He'd signed my name himself. Then came the texts to Amber. They were taken out of context, he said. I was just venting about our marriage. So why, the prosecutor asked, were you Googling how to make sedative overdose look accidental the same week you started giving her the pills? Jason had no answer. He stuttered. Backtracked. Tried to deflect. The jury saw right through him. It took the jury 4 hours to find him guilty on all counts. Attempted murder. Insurance fraud. Distributing controlled substances. Multiple counts of each. The judge sentenced Jason to 25 years in the North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections, with no parole eligibility for at least 15 years. I was in the courtroom when the sentence was read. Jason looked back at me, and for just a second, I saw real fear in his eyes. Good. He should be afraid. He should feel even a fraction of the terror I felt when I realized what he'd done to me. Amber got 8 years as part of her plea deal. She'd be out while Jason was still locked up. It didn't feel fair, but at least she was going to prison. At least there were consequences. The divorce was finalized 3 months after sentencing. I got everything, the house, which I sold immediately, the cars, all joint accounts. His family tried to fight it, claimed I was being vindictive. My lawyer shut that down fast. Your son tried to murder my client, he said. She's entitled to every asset. The insurance company voided the forged $2 million policy and prosecuted Jason separately for fraud, adding even more time to his sentence. Recovery took longer than the trial. Months of therapy, physical and psychological. My brain had to relearn how to function without constant sedation. My body had to remember what normal energy felt like. Some days were better than others. 6 months after Jason's arrest, I was functional again. Not perfect. I still had memory gaps from those drugged months. Anxiety. Trust issues. Nightmares. But I could get through a day without wanting to give up. I could hold a conversation without losing my train of thought. I could take care of myself. I moved into a small house in Chattanooga, close to my dad. Started seeing a trauma therapist twice a week. Joined a support group for domestic violence survivors, because that's what I was. Even though Jason never hit me, never yelled, never did the things people think of as abuse. He was killing me slowly, with a smile on his face. And I'd thanked him for it. The school district in Asheville held my position as long as they could, but eventually filled it. I wasn't ready to return anyway. Instead, I took a part-time job at a small private school in Chattanooga, 3 days a week, teaching first graders. Enough to keep me grounded, not overwhelmed. My father and I grew closer than ever. He'd saved my life, literally. If he hadn't driven to Asheville that August morning, if he hadn't picked up that white pill bottle, if he hadn't recognized those sedatives from his years as a hospital pharmacist, I wouldn't be here. I'd be dead. And Jason would have collected $2 million and started a new life with Amber. The thought still makes me sick. Now, 18 months after that morning, I'm building a new life. It's not the one I imagined, but I'm alive. Healthy. Myself again. I volunteer now, teaching women about covert abuse, the kind that leaves no bruises. The kind that looks like a loving husband making breakfast, handing you vitamins, kissing your forehead. The kind that erases you while everyone says, she's just tired. Jason isolated me perfectly. Controlled my meds. My energy. My health. Filtered every call, every message, every visitor. Made sure the world saw stress, not sabotage. All while he dosed me, patiently, methodically, waiting for my body to shut down so he could play the grieving widower and cash in. I think about all those mornings I smiled at him. Kissed him goodbye after swallowing poison. Felt grateful he was taking care of me. It makes me want to scream. To break something. The rage is still there, underneath the healing. Maybe it always will be. But I'm channeling it now, into recovery, into advocacy, into making sure no one else gets lost in that same fog. Jason writes me letters from prison. I don't read them. My lawyer screens and archives them, in case we need them later. But I don't care what he says. I don't care if he's sorry, if he's found God, if he regrets it. He looked me in the eyes every morning and handed me poison. No apology fixes that. Amber gets out in 6 years. Jason won't see parole for 13 more after that. By the time he walks free, I'll be in my 50s, living a full life he tried to steal. He'll be an old man who traded his freedom for insurance money and a woman who betrayed him to save herself. I hope it was worth it. I hope every day in that cell, he replays his greed. His arrogance. His choice to poison instead of just filing for divorce like a decent human. My father and I had dinner last week. We were sitting on his back porch watching the sunset over the Chattanooga hills, and he looked at me with tears in his eyes. "I'm so proud of you," he said. "For surviving this. For rebuilding. You're the strongest person I know." "I'm not sure about that," I said softly. "Most days I don't feel strong. I feel broken. Scarred. Angry. But I'm here. I'm fighting. I'm not letting what Jason did define the rest of my life." I paused. That's something, right? So let me tell you what I learned from this nightmare. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone, not even someone you love, have complete control over your health, your medications, or your body. Read labels. Ask questions. Don't blindly trust that the person who says they love you actually has your best interests at heart. Watch for the signs. Unexplained fatigue. Memory problems. Mood swings. Isolation from friends and family. Someone managing your medical care without your full understanding. These aren't always signs of poisoning, but they are signs that something's off. That you need to speak up. Advocate for yourself. Get second opinions. Involve people you trust. And if you have medical training, if you're a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, pay attention to the people around you. My father saved my life because he recognized those pills. Because he knew my symptoms weren't normal. Because he refused to be shut out, even when Jason tried to keep him away. If he hadn't come that Saturday morning, I'd be dead. Jason's plan would have worked. In another few weeks, a month, maybe, he would have increased my dose one last time. My body would have shut down. The medical examiner would have called it an accidental overdose. A stressed-out teacher addicted to anxiety meds. No one would have suspected Jason. He'd have played the grieving husband, collected that $2 million, and started a new life with Amber. But it didn't happen, because my dad refused to stay away. Because he picked up that bottle. Because he knew what he was looking at. I'm alive because of him. I'm healing because of him. I'm here telling this story because of him. So yeah, trust your instincts. Protect yourself. Don't assume someone can't hurt you just because they say they love you. Jason told me he loved me every day. Every morning, he'd hand me those pills, kiss my forehead, and say, "I love you." Then he'd watch me swallow poison, and smile. Love doesn't do that. Love doesn't systematically destroy the person it claims to care about. Love doesn't research undetectable sedatives. Love doesn't forge your signature on a life insurance policy. Love doesn't plan your murder with a mistress. That wasn't love. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't love. I'm still learning what real love looks like. What healthy relationships feel like. What trust feels like when it's not a weapon. It's hard. Some days, I think I'll never fully trust anyone again. Other days, I believe maybe I can. Maybe someday. For now, I'm focusing on myself, on healing, on rebuilding, on helping others recognize the signs I missed. On being here. Being alive. Being grateful for every single day Jason tried to steal from me. If you're watching this and something I've said resonates with you, if you're in a relationship where someone controls your health, your meds, your access to the outside world, please reach out. Tell someone you trust. See a doctor on your own. Don't wait until it's too late. I almost did. If my father had waited one more week to visit, I might not be here. Don't let that be your story. Don't let someone else control your life, your health, your future. You deserve better. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be healthy, whole, and free. And if someone tries to take that from you, fight back. Survive. Get help. And make sure they face consequences. Jason is in prison. Amber is, too. They threw away their lives because they thought they could get away with killing me. They thought I was too trusting. Too naive. Too easy to fool. For a while, they were right. But they got caught. Justice was served. And I'm still here, telling my story, warning others, living fully despite everything they did to end me. That's my revenge. Not the prison sentences, though those help. My revenge is being alive. Being healthy. Being free. Building a life they tried to erase. They failed. I won. And that's something Jason will have to live with for the next 25 years. So thank you for listening to my story. If you made it this far, please hit that like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below with your thoughts, your experiences, your location, and what time you're watching. And remember, trust your instincts. Protect yourself. Don't let anyone convince you that slowly dying is normal. Stay safe. Stay aware. And never ever blindly trust someone just because they say they love you. Actions speak louder than words. And Jason's actions were attempted murder. I'm Mia Reynolds, and I survived. You can too.